As a way of centering us for this week, I want to share with you Psalm 1, and I'll be using the Common English Bible translation. The truly happy person doesn't follow wicked advice, doesn't stand on the road of sinners, and doesn't sit with the disrespectful. Instead of doing those things, these persons love the Lord's instruction, and they recite God's instructions day and night. They're like trees planted by a stream of water, which bears fruit at just the right time and whose leaves don't fade. Whatever they do succeeds. They're not true for the wicked. They are like dust that the wind blows away. That's why the wicked will have no standing in the court of justice, neither will sinners in the assembly of the righteous. The Lord is intimately acquainted with the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked is destroyed. Amen. I want to welcome you to Hobson UMC on YouTube. I am VHD Jr, the pastor here at Hobson, and I'm in for my weekly conversation with my son, Trey. It's a time that we have set aside to help me to be able to transition from a time of study and reflecting on the scriptures for the coming week and to hopefully zero in on what my message may be for this coming weekend. We started, I guess, 3 years ago now, but it has become a very important time. Not only is it a time for him to help me get some kind of context for the message to understand what's going on with him and the life of the congregation, but it's also an opportunity for me just to kind of focus in on because it's so much going on in the world and so much with the text that we have that I need that focus for that. And in addition, it's also an opportunity for me to have a way of being able to connect with you. More than likely, most of the people who say that they listen are not people who attend on a Sunday morning here at Hobson. But they want to know what it is that I'm thinking about, and so it has become an important time, and we truly appreciate when you let us know that you've listened and that there may have been something that challenged you to look at the scripture in a different way. Maybe you hadn't considered something that we said in our conversation, or maybe it was something that just brought you some comfort at a time. Whichever the case, we are appreciative of you listening and of your comments, and I encourage you, if you have things that you want us to talk about or to share, then please do not hesitate in reaching out and letting us know what it is, so that we can try to cover that. Because, as I say, while it does help me, hopefully, with all of the options that you have out there, that for you to spend some time with us, it must mean something to you. And so we want to make sure that we're touching bases with you also. So thank you for stopping by. Whenever we gather at Hobson, it is important for us to take some time and share with one another those things that are upon our heart, that are a source of joy for us, and we celebrate in that. And it is a time for us to sharing with one another those concerns. And not that it is about informing God as much as it is about informing us, so that we can be used as an instrument of God's grace and how God would use us for particularly for those concerns, to be supportive of one another, and for those joys, for us to let the world know what God is doing in our lives, and that hopefully it serves as an inspiration, particularly for those who may be going through some difficult and challenging times. So we do that, and we do it whether it's in worship or in small groups. We take time for prayer. A special time in our celebration, what we call about joys and concerns, is the joy of birthdays. We like to celebrate birthdays. This past week in Sunday, because of some illnesses and people being out of town, and some homecoming celebrations, the crowd was low, and we didn't have any birthdays that were there, and we had to reach to get a couple of birthdays for those during the course of the week. But we did because birthdays are important for us. And so this week, in sending out our birthday shout outs, want to send one out to Tina Samuels, Lisa Renee, Bridget, D. Young Ross, Naomi Arrington Clark, our Trey and our frat brother, Martin Curry, Dee Dee Ritter, Alice Forrester, Bill Shelton, Pam Streeter Dixon, Denise Bentley, Stephen Rutherford, Alethea Kelly, Ingrid Rowland, Valerie Neal Miller, Dr. Michelle Stafford, Sherry Martin, Cheryl Starks, Don Yoverton, Derica Dunn Baker, Terrence D. Davis Sr., Lavette Curry, Antonio House, Ashley Cleveland, Ann Smith, Michael W. Vinsang, and I think he is probably one of the most faithful followers of us on YouTube and on Facebook, and so we have to send out a very special birthday shout out to him. Patricia Mornier, Dr. Melissa Snare, Stephanie J. Harris, Shannon Hunt, Joanne Webb, Doris Hardy, and last, another fraternity brother who also used to be a musician here at Hobson, Chris Davis. So we sent out birthday shout outs to all of them. And we ask for you to offer up prayers. We remember not only the birthdays of those who are here, but of loved ones who may have gone on. And so this week, just ask for prayers for Mitzi Brandon as she remembers her mother on her birthday that's this week. Cheryl Clayton, whose father's birthday was this week. Dana Nero, her mother's birthday. And also just pray for Dana. She's been having some health issues. And so we just want to lift her up in this time. And then Nicole Smith, whose mother's birthday is this week. I'm going to ask for you to be in prayers for healing for James Milliken. He was in the hospital and just got word he is back home now and has got to take it easy for a while. But we ask for you to continue to be in prayer for him. Also ask for prayers for Lawana Coleman Johnson, who had some recent surgery. We've been lifting her up for that, but it's just a different and an adjustment to a lifestyle change for her. And so we're asking for prayers for strength and encouragement for her as she goes through that. And then I also ask for you to be in prayer for Marilyn Jackson. She's in a recovery center now, but and we're praying for her to have have a speedy recovery and back. She's missing. She works with the Predators, and she is missing these opening games, and so we are offering up prayers for her. If you do have special prayers, we do ask that you reach out to us and let us know so that we can be in prayer for you. We're also going to ask that for traveling mercy. We've got a few people who have been away and who are coming back in, and there's the whole issue around weather and change and the holidays, and in particular with so much that's going on in the world. We're just praying for safe travel as people are hitting the highways and the airways. As I say, if you have special prayers, we want to make sure that we're in prayer for you. So please do not hesitate in reaching out and letting me know. Our scripture for this week's comes from Matthew's Gospel, and we'll be finishing up with chapter 22. And I'll be sharing with you verses 34 through 46, and I'll be using the Common English Bible translation. When the Pharisees heard that Jesus had left the Sadducees speechless, they met together, and one of them, a legal expert, tested him. "Teacher, what is the greatest commandment in the law?" He replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your being and with all of your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. You must love your neighbor as you love yourself. All of the law and the prophets depend on these two commands. Now, as the Pharisees were gathering, Jesus asked them, "Who do you think? Who do you think about Christ? Whose son is he?" "David's son," they replied. He said, "Then how is it that David, inspired by the Holy Spirit, called him Lord when he said, 'The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right side until I turn your enemies into your footstool'? If David calls him Lord, how can he be David's son?" Nobody was able to answer him, and from that day forward, nobody dared to ask him anything. And this is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. For the last 6 weeks, we have been in chapters 21 and 22, and we have been dealing with Jesus and his conversation with the Sadducees and the Pharisees. And last week we had the Herodians that were all present, and they all have been coming and asking Jesus questions. And they have been testing him, in particular around the issues of where his authority was. And it has just gotten to the place that they've just about given up in trying to catch him. He's outfoxed them with some of his responses, and he has been has made them all look bad. And so finally, the Pharisees just said, "Look, let's just go and try to figure out," because part of what they're trying to figure is that he's gotten a following, and is there anything around this fire, while it's threatening to them, because the people of whom are beginning to turn to Jesus, and they're just wondering, how is it that he's dynamic, the words that he's saying, the things that he's doing, they just want to know. And as being those persons who believe that their authority and their power had come from their obedience to the law and following the law, finally just decided that, look, it's got to be something different. We want to hear what he has to say about this, because they view themselves as having done exactly what God has demanded of them and commanded of them to do, and so they want to hear Jesus's response to that question. And so, in asking them, what is the greatest commandment? I mean, surely you have listened, and it's something that we've missed because we keep going over them. And you're doing some great things, and the way that people are responding to you. So in essence, I think that what they're saying is, tell us your secret. Is there a possibility that maybe we have missed something, and we have interpreted the wrong way, and because we want to know. And Jesus, who has been throwing out some puzzling responses to some other questions that they have, particularly around the question around paying taxes, he just comes with this point, and he just says to them, well, and you know what they are. And then he quotes to them what they would have in their own instruction and their own teaching would have said, and that is that the greatest of the commandments is to love your God. And then he kind of adds on to it, which is nothing new, because he says to them, and the second is likened it, and that is to love your neighbor as yourself. And so in this question of where they have looked at Jesus and trying to set him aside, Jesus ultimately responds to them and says, look, I'm just like you. I believe in the things that you that you believe in, the words that have been passed down. This is nothing new. The difference may be, and the difference is that I live these words out, that these are just not words that that I keep within my mind, and I know what they are, because he does kind of add on to it. You gotta do it with your mind, your body, with all that you are. And Jesus says to them, and it implies in the response, that these laws, that I have embodied them, that you see within me, what it means to love God completely with all that I am, and that loving my neighbors, and caring and doing all that I can, and doing it because of love. There's one thing to know, but there's another thing for it to be seen. And so I could only imagine how it must have floored them, in that they go on later and just say, that after this, they can't say anything. They can't question. They can't challenge him. And I imagine after that kind of response, that they were walking away. And as they're walking away, Jesus says, wait, before you go now, because I want you to have an understanding of who the Son of God is. And for them, and their teachings would have taught that the line for the Messiah, for the Christ, would have come through David. And that it would have been an heir. And Matthew, in telling of the story, and telling of the Jesus story, starts out it starts the gospel out by giving that lineage of Jesus, and showing how it does come down through David. And so they would have said, it's David's son, or in essence, David's heir is coming in there. And so then Jesus then says, wait a minute then. If that's the case, how is it that David called the Messiah Lord? That the Lord existed. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. That the Lord had existed before him, and in fact, David worshipped that one. So how is it that could be? And so, with that, they're just totally outdone, and they move on away from him. I think that's a challenge for us, and I think we're sometimes people of whom, when we think of and call ourselves as being followers of Christ, and we go in and we read the Word and we understand that. But there is that thing of how is it that we are living that out, and how is it that in the ways that we live, that people will know. We as I say, we try to follow those two commandments of loving God and loving our neighbors. But love is not just what we say, love is what we do. And so we saw the depths of Jesus' love for his neighbor. We saw the depth of the love that he had for God, and the commitment, and the spending the time, and the prayer, and submitting to the will. And he's saying to them and saying to us, that if we are truly believing, that these words are for us also, because he, as I say, he's saying to them, look, the instructions for me, and the expectations of me are no different than the expectations that God has of you, and that I'm able to do it and you are able to do it if you will put your trust and your faith in God, and have those words be not just words, but be the actions. And so on Sunday, that's where we're going to go. Well, I mean, we're coming to the end of year A, coming to the end of Matthew's Gospel, getting ready. I mean, in just a few weeks now, we'll be in Advent, and we'll be starting this whole thing all over again. But as we move to that point of recognizing, acknowledging of Christ the King as the one who has come to model and to encourage us to live into that model, how are we doing that, and where is our commitment for that and living in that out? Those two great commandments. So that's where we're going to go with it on Sunday. And I just ask you to be a prayer. And it'll pop up at some place on Facebook, and so check it out. And in the meantime, I just ask that you do an analysis of your life and ask yourself, what do these two great commandments mean to you, and how are you living them out? Amen. Well, Mr. Dixon, how are things going with you?
Things are going pretty good. How are they going with you, man?
It's going good, going
Good,
good.
good, good.
Mason was wanted to come see you today, and I told him we had to do some other things. So he was not happy because he told me that I was not following instructions. So, but no, things are going pretty good, pretty good. Um, uh, um, I had a couple of things I just wanted to, and I was looking earlier at. Um, I don't know whether I was looking at it online or whether I was looking at it live because I was on a Zoom call. But the but I've seen the story, but they were talking about it on the View today. That there was and it's been going around, as I say, in a lot of different formats on social media. But it was some lady was bad mouthing a guy because she picked him up. I mean, he took her on the first date to Cheesecake Factory. Have you seen that?
Yeah,
The,
I've seen
the
it.
story.
Yeah, I've seen
Okay, okay. Yes, I just want yeah, I thought it was interesting, and of course, I saw another thing, and they had like the 20 restaurants. You ought not to you shouldn't take somebody on a first date going through, and it's been interesting in listening to the response. But I've got two things I'm going to ask.
Uh-huh.
Two things I'm going to ask you. First thing I'm going to ask you that if you could only go to one restaurant,
Hmm.
and you're going out and you're going to only one restaurant the for the rest of your life, what would that one restaurant be?
Just one.
Just one. I mean, you eat at home, you can go out, but I mean, if you're going out to eat, then regardless of the time, wherever, whatever, the one restaurant, you're not going to any other restaurant. Because I know you are I was thinking about this. I know you are a loyal to some products because, as I say, I was thinking about this, and I was talking to somebody else, and I was like, I don't know if Trey has ever worn another brand of tennis shoes other than Nikes.
Oh yeah, 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 for sure.
I said, but he's a loyal Nike person,
Right.
and Mason is a Nike person. But anyway, so back to the restaurant. So,
Mm.
what would be your one go-to restaurant?
Oh man, go to restaurant. I'm gonna go. If I had to only go to that restaurant,
Right.
that means I want to go and get a certain thing. I think I would go with Stony River.
Stony Rivers.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably
Okay.
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think the habits that we have, and when people hear us, talking about our habits and things, then there are certain things that are just kind of inferred into that. So if and I think that not only that, it also becomes an expectation. So if everybody knows that that's your restaurant, then if if somebody's saying, hey, let's go meet and let's go eat, then they gonna say, well, if we got Trey, we won't probably end up at Stony Rivers because that's his place. But I want to carry it out even a little farther and to say that we're gonna push your life expectancy to 70, and hopefully you go way beyond 70. But if from this day forward, you can only have that you can only eat the same thing for 3 meals a day.
The same things or the different things for three different meals? Which one?
What, 3 different meals for
Okay.
breakfast,
Okay.
lunch, and for a supper or dinner, whatever you want to call it. But it has to be the same thing. So whatever you choose for the breakfast, from now for the next 26, 28 years, 28 years,
Okay.
you got to eat the same thing, and you got to eat it within an hour of a period of time.
Okay.
So I want to know your breakfast, your lunch, and your supper. What would your breakfast be?
Yeah, I would have bacon, 3 pieces of bacon.
3 pieces of bacon.
Yeah. 2 eggs, probably scrambled, and a biscuit. That's what I would eat for breakfast.
Okay.
Every morning.
All right.
Yep. For lunch,
What time of breakfast?
like 7:30.
Okay.
7:30. That's when I would.
7:30, 8:30. So if you don't get it by 8:30, then you can't have. You can't. Okay. That's it. Okay. All right. Okay. Now lunch.
I would have like a hamburger and some fries. It wouldn't. Yeah. It would probably be something like that. A hamburger and some fries. Bacon cheeseburger and some fries.
Bacon cheeseburger and some fries.
Yep.
Okay. And what time?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And for your evening meal.
Yeah, I would have a ribeye steak and steak fries and a salad.
Okay.
That's what I would eat.
All right.
That's what I would eat. Yeah. What about you?
And what time?
That would be like 6:30.
6:30.
6:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what time I would like to eat dinner.
Okay. Okay. That's kind of in line. I guess if I had to guess on what you would have probably chosen, that would have probably been it. That probably would have been it. Even though growing up, and all of my stories about you in growing up was that you didn't eat anything but chicken.
Yeah,
And
but
so,
I mean, if I
and
had,
so now the only chicken thigh you got is the 2 eggs.
yeah, but I mean, if I had to pick
Right, yeah.
something to eat for the rest of my life, that up until this point, I probably eaten or had my share in 2 billion chickens.
Right, yeah.
So
So
yeah.
So you can go without.
Yeah,
You got
yeah.
enough chicken.
I've had my fill of chicken. So
No, I asked that question, and it's back toward the where I'm going to go with it on Sunday. I think we become creatures of habit, and that people. We don't necessarily. I think sometimes we may say that we're one thing, but the habits and the things that we do are often reflect and send a different kind of send a different message, and it sends the reality of who we really are. And so, people would probably look and say, well, Trey's slam and tram and all that kind of stuff, and so he probably is not one of those who is into red meat, but yet you're given that choice and seeing, that would be who you are. And I think that we have to, as people, sometimes we say and want to have a certain perception. We want people to perceive us a certain way, but we're kind of left to fall into our habits. I think people are sometimes will see and view us as being different. And I think that's one of the great things, that I imagine about Jesus was that he was the same regardless of the situation that he was. The choices that he made were always going to be those choices that were about the neighbor and living out who he was called, who he was, the purpose that are in his life. And so and I think that how people see us is and how people respond, because I think people respond to our habits more so than we actually think. I mean, because we may think in our heads that a certain person looks at us in a certain way, and it's just kind of like with the restaurant, the and the story is going around. One of the things that is not shared in the list, that I saw initially was that he had another restaurant picked out, but she was an hour late,
Right.
and so they had lost the reservation, and so he had to go to a place where he thought he could get in and to be able to go, but it wasn't one of those things of saying, where is it that where is it you would like to go? Where is it a place that you're comfortable? Where it is that we can have? And it's not necessarily in putting on the airs. One of my favorite stories to tell, and then I'll see if it's something that you want to add. Is there was a young man who played on my summer team, Bobby Scales. You remember Bobby? Just vaguely, yeah, because you may have been a little young to remember
Right.
him. But Bobby was a heck of a ball player. But also, I think Bobby had done some finagling and had gotten, I think, a phony birth certificate and had him being younger than he was. Because when Bobby came to me, he was a full grown man, and yet he told me he was 17, and I was like, oh, okay. But anyway, and Bobby had some connections, and so Bobby always had a bunch of money. One time we went to a game, and because I think you went. I think you were with me at that game. So, but as I said, you were probably 5 or 6 years old. But a maid broke into the guy's room and stole their tennis shoes. And so when we came back, we didn't have any shoes for the game, and I said, "Look, we're gonna have to take you over to the we're gonna go over to the mall and we're gonna get you some shoes. This is the best you can do. So I'm just getting like some regular Nikes. And Bobby was like, "Oh no, coach, you know, we gotta get some Air Jordans or something." I was like, "No, Bobby, I can't. Coach can't afford that." Even though we were going to get the money back from the hotel, because I talked to them and said, but they had to send a check. They couldn't give us the cash right there. And Bobby pulled out a roll of money and said, "Oh, Coach, just tell everybody to go in there and get him some shoes. I got it covered." And I was like, "Bobby, what are you doing out?" And so whenever we would go to a game or something, Bobby would pull out this roll of money and have me keep it. And I used to tell folks I couldn't halfway coach because I was concerned about all of this money that I had. But the last thing that I want to say about that about Bobby as it relates to where we're going, there was a college recruit that came from Texas and was recruiting Bobby, and he came to town, and he wanted to meet with Bobby, and Bobby told him to meet on Lafayette Street, around from the old cab stand. And so the coach went by and picked him up, and got him in one. He said, well, Bobby, where you want to go to eat? And Bobby said, I want to go, I want to go Burger King. And the guy said, Bobby, look, I got an expense account. I want we can go to the finest restaurant in town. And the guy told me, he said, Bobby pulled out a wad of money. And Bobby said, I can eat it any damn place I want. I want to go to Burger King, because that's who I am. So it wasn't about trying to be impressive and stuff. Bobby thought, I'm hungry, and that's what I like to eat. And so there's no need of me trying to get and put on airs about who I am, other than giving me a phony birth certificate. But other than that,
Yeah.
he was real in who he was and what was his expectations and his encounter with people. And so that for me is one of the images that I have of Jesus, and it is what I hope and I pray that all of us who want to be followers can be authentic in who we are, and what we say and how we speak about their relationship is also how people see and interpret that relationship. So
Yeah, just to kind of talk about that, I guess, TikTok or Instagram movie or whatever, about the lady and that eating and all of that kind of stuff, in the sense of the type of language that was being used during that video. I've been on some dates where you end up taking somebody to a place where is out of your price range, and you want to take them out and have a good time. So you make a selection that maybe they wouldn't have had on their list of places that they would like to go. But I know you know as well as I do, when it comes to talking to a woman on a regular basis about where they want to go eat, and
right.
For the common language for it to be, oh well, I want a man to pick, and I want a man to do X, Y, and Z, and that should be the man's job. And then when you get to the point where you are you are now making the choice and you're taking a woman out, and that's the type of behavior, or that is the type of response that you get, yeah, it would have went totally different for me if that had been a woman that I decided to take to Cheesecake Factory. That, yeah, it would have worked totally differently.
It was another comedian. He was talking about somebody that he took out, and so went and they had a dollar oyster night or something like that, and 12 oysters for $10 or whatever. And he was talking about she ordered 4 orders, and so the waiter said, "And what will you have?" He said, "I'll get a dish rag because I got to," because even though, it is. That's a strange, and I've listened to those kind of things, and I was listening, to that particular one, and I think those are the kind of things you just gotta have, you gotta talk about, beforehand, and but some people will roll up and act in one way. You remember Mr. Zapp?
Yeah.
Mrs. Zapp would we would stop at Shoney's when we were riding the bus going to the games and stuff. And so anytime we ever ask a place where we want to stop and eat, people are like, let's go to Cracker Barrel, or let's go to Bill Evans or whatever. Zap say, let's go to Shoney's. And so we would go to Shoney's and he would get the all you can eat, you know. And Mrs. Zapp would go over and he'd get a plate full of ham. He'd get whatever the most expensive thing on there. You know, other people getting a little salad and little bits and pieces, you know. No, I'm going to get my money's worth. We say, Zap, you get way more than your money's worth because you eating the most expensive thing on the buffet. So he didn't waste no time. If we had meat on the buffet, he wasn't wasting no time with no mashed potatoes and any of that kind of stuff. He was gonna get his money worth. And I think it's the same kind of thing when you're encountering somebody, for the first time. There needs to, I could see some real disadvantages with going on a blind date, and you pull up in one thing and shoot they start ordering. A guy was telling me the other day, and then we'll cut it off on this. He was like, he went out and had somebody, and hell, she looked on her. Uh, uh, I don't drink house wine, and so what kind of wine you want, and she ordered a bottle. I think he said the bottle was like $92, and so he said, you can order that if you want to, but you're gonna have to pay for it. She said, I know, you invite me. I said, oh no, I'll pick up the check, but you gonna have to pay for it. Yeah, I be dying laughing. Well, I want to thank you for spending some time with us, and hope and praying that as you look at the scriptures for this week, and as you consider that hopefully that what people see in you matches up what it is that you say and what it is that you believe, because certainly the one that we follow is the one who sets for us as a model of living into our authentic selves of who it is that God has called us to be in those expectations. So thank you for spending some time. And as I say, if you got things you want us to pray for, be sure to send them to us.